What's up, everybody? This is GreyMan here. How is everybody doing this afternoon? Hopefully you're doing well. So I know a lot of you guys are probably expecting the normal medical Monday thing, but I've been putting this video off for several weeks. This video is basically going to be a video for people that are just getting into prepping or new to prepping, or have been prepping a little bit but need some more insight. And the reason I'm doing this video is I've gotten a bunch of emails. I've had people have conversations with me that come into my place of business, and they ask me why do you do what you do, and stuff like that. So we're going to touch on those topics and kind of dive into, let's say, a home checklist, and also, why, or the reasons I have a get home bag, and the reasons why there's situations that you would need that. So a little bit of bugging in, a little bit of bugging out, kind of stuff like that. Now, for some of you experienced preppers, you might not, need this information, and I understand, and this information has probably been done several times, but folks who watch me personally want me to do this video, so this is why I'm here doing it today, and trying to catch up on some of these emails and whatnot that I've received from you folks out there, which is truly appreciated. Alright, so let's kind of dive into things. I've stuck some notes up here on my screen to keep me on task. But basically, this checklist is kind of like a way to, you want to be able to survive in your home for at least 2 weeks without any outside help. Alright, be it for whatever the scenario may be. So this means you can assume that you're not going to have, let's say, electricity, water, ways to cook, heating, gas, communication, internet, access to 911, ambulances, and the list goes on and on and on. You're not going to have access to stuff like that. You're kind of in your home, stuck by yourself with you or your family and whatnot. And so kind of I put some topics up there that I can kind of give you an idea of the reasons why this is pertinent. You know what I mean? Let's say you have an unexpected expense, a layoff, that from your job, or you get fired or whatnot, whatever the case may be, and you live on a tight budget. This is a good reason to prep. You know what I mean? If you get what I'm saying. Let's say your school or work or anything environment is canceled due to inclement weather. Let's say heat waves or blizzards or whatever the case may be, where you're out of work or school for long periods of time. Again, this affects your finances and stuff like that. So having food on hand and water and other things that you may not have to go outside and buy extra stuff up, which will save you on your finances for whatever bills that you may have. So let's say the water grid goes down. Water can be contaminated. You guys see what happened over in Tampa, or the west coast of Florida. You guys saw what happened in Texas. Things like this. The grid goes down, the water gets polluted, or what is it? I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but you get what I'm saying. You can't drink the water. Again, so let's touch on this. Let's say hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever type of earthquakes, things like that. It destroys whatever your environment that you're living in. Basically, everything is down. There's no power, like I just said. There's the water. There's no one coming to help you out because there's so much stuff going on. Ironically enough, I've been through in here. What about there's a massive epidemic and things go sideways? It's spreading all over the place, and you're quarantined to your home, and some countries where you cannot leave your home. Another great one. Also, what happened last year, civil unrest. There's mass unrest in the streets, and you can't leave your home, or you don't want to leave your home. You don't want to be involved. Let's say worst case scenario, a city nearby is, let's say you're in a rural area, and the main city gets attacked by foreign folks. So you got to look at stuff like that. You never know. Not saying it's going to happen, but it could be a possibility. And then the worst case scenario is total collapse, be it the economy, be it whatever it may be. We call it the shift. And a lot of folks say, well, what does shift stand for? And it stands for shit hits the fan. Most of you folks know that, but for the folks you don't know, that's what shift means. And when I state that little word shift, I mean shit hits the fan, literally. So I've also learned something doing research in regards to prepping and stuff like that. A lot of people say, well, I don't have to prep, there's all these systems in place to help us out. Well, if you've been in places like where Katrina, happened down there in Louisiana, stuff like that, you folks know specifically, or in Texas recently, know how long it can take for them to build a response and to help folks out. So you will be left to your own devices, if that makes any sense to you. I always say that word because I want to make sure that I'm relating what I'm trying to say. But so I wrote a little side note. It says, for example, the American military reports they need an average of 8 days. That's 8 days. So over a week, 8 days for them to mobilize a response inside the U.S. border. And that's just, that's just for localized, crises, let's say such as earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, and so on and so forth. So that being said, so this is why I'm going to dive into this checklist. And like I said, this checklist is based on, like I say, a 2-week checklist versus, something that's long term. And this is, like I said, this is just to kind of get you started, hopefully, and get you at least prepared for some of these events like this. And then, of course, you want to, build upon what I'm saying. So let's talk about water. I got here, wrote that, you should store 15 gallons of drinkable water per person. That's roughly a gallon per day. And have ways to treat dirty water, be it either portable, portable water filters, countertop filters like the Berkey, other different types of water filtration devices. People use stuff like bleach. Do your research before you dive into bleach. And there's a lot of other ways you can clean water that you need for your home. Let's dive into food. Food, you need for the average person, this is for the average person, you need about 2,300 calories per person, roughly 1,500 calories per day. And this is, thin. Think about how many calories you consume on a daily basis. A lot of us are way over that. But this is like, you're surviving here. And the food should, be built up of, shelf-stable food that's ready to eat, that only needs maybe, let's say, boiling water to do. Also, things that you can just open a bag, like I always do the bags of tuna, certain canned goods you can eat right out of the bag, let's say pork and beans or whatever. There's a lot of different foods that you can look at. So you want to prep stuff like that. You want to have those items in your home checklist. And in regards, like I said, when it comes to food, you kind of want to have a mix of, let's say, supermarket food, that you go to the grocery store and you buy and then you stock up on. And then, as we call it, some people like to say special prepper food, like the freeze-dried foods and canned foods, or canning and stuff like that. And like the freeze-dried foods, they don't last forever, but they last for quite some time, for decades at some points. All right, so that being, I had touched on boiling water, you know what I mean, because you might not have power. So I want to also talk about fire. With fire, you should, have stuff like lighters, matches, backup fire starters, let's say ferro rods, different ways to make fire. This is very important for a lot of folks. Some people, me personally, I stock propane, and I have little burners that go in propane canisters. You've probably seen those little green canisters. I could go grab some, but I'm not, as most of you guys should know what those are. Alcohol stoves, solid fuel burning stoves, things like that. That you can use, even the little camping stoves, the Coleman camping stoves, where you hook up the the green propane tank and you have 2 burners, stuff like that. Now, if you're one of those lucky folks that have a generator, be it solar or gas or whatever it may be, maybe you can run like a little, what do they call it, the hot pots or something like that. It's just a little stove that you kind of plug in, and you can heat stuff and boil water, stuff like that as well. Being that there's no power in that situation, in most situations, because like I said, everybody knows the grid is very fragile. Is light. Light is it's like almost a savior for certain people. Like I said, being in the dark, absolute darkness, when the city goes down and your surrounding areas and it's pitch black, because darkness can be very, very dark, especially if you've ever been in the woods with no light at all. It can be very, very dark and very scary for some folks if you're not used to something like that. So, have things like headlamps, flashlights, candles, lanterns. You know what I mean? You can buy the little tea lights if you have to. Candles are very cheap. And I don't mean the Yankee candles that cost $25 to make your house smell good. I mean surviving candles. I have 8-hour candles. I have lanterns, be it battery powered, be it solar powered, be it candle powered or whatnot. So I have rechargeable headlamps and flashlights and all kinds of stuff like that. So please put that on your home checklist. Now, this is very important as well, depending on where you live at. Everything is dependent on where you live at sometimes. And what I mean by this is if you live in a cold environment or a hot environment. But even in, like, let's say Florida, sometimes the nights can be very cold and there's no power. You'll realize it's colder than you would assume sometimes, but not always. So heating and cooling. I kind of want to touch on that on the checklist. Heating and cooling, indoor safe heaters, and just do your research when it comes to certain these heaters, because people have, they tip over, they start fires, they do all kinds of stuff like that, and then you create a bigger situation. than you were in the first place. But you can just make sure they're indoor safe heaters. And I can go into a whole thing of them, but most of you guys probably know what an indoor safe heater is. They're like the little small ones you plug in. They have a grate on the front, so they have a protective covering. But just remember, they can take up a lot of power. So if you're hooking this up to a certain situation, they can have a huge draw. So maybe, more like a lot of blankets. Buy some of the old military wool blankets, emergency blankets, just lots of, let's say those goose down blankets, whatever, a bunch of blankets. Having extra blankets is just nice to have. Maybe you have guests come over, maybe you have family come over, and you need blankets. So there's a lot of reasons to stockpile blankets. And then also, in Florida, I have found this that works very, very well, is USB powered fans. I know it sounds crazy, right? But you can buy those anywhere now, either online or in stores. A little USB powered fan will feel great compared to just stagnant air. Especially here in Florida where the heat just gets the humidities out there, just to have, and I know the fan is just kind of blowing heat through there, but at least it's air and it feels good, at least for me. I think Papa Prepper said something about that too. He has to have a fan wherever he goes. But me, I have a solar power bank, and this goes back to having ways of, having power. A solar power bank, I can plug in this USB power fan that I have. It's a small one. It's only probably about, something like that. But it feels good to have some sort of air. And like I said, I can keep it running off a little power bank that I have for quite some time, or let's say a solar generator. And some of them can be pricey. They can range from several $100s to several $1,000s. I've looked at the Blue Yeti, or not the Blue Yetis, the Yetis, or whatever they're called. But there's ones out there. Matter of fact, I just did a major purchase on a tri-fuel generator, because I had an old beat-up generator, but I wanted a tri-fuel generator that I could run, stuff like propane, natural gas, and regular gas through it. So this one, you're going to think this one might be a little weird, but because you're in your home, but shelter. I kind of wanted to add this to that list. And what I mean by shelter is, like tarps. They can come in handy for very improvised situations. Let's say, you get a hole in your roof, through a branch that breaks in, or a hurricane, tornado, something that breaks windows. You can use these tarps to, to put up on houses, put up on windows and stuff like that. If you need to put them to plug a hole or whatnot, or if it's just you're right in the middle of a situation and you can't get outside and it's pouring down in the room that you're in, or your house is just, you can put a tarp in your house to at least protect you from the rain or wind, the stuff that's coming down from the ceiling. I don't remember wind, because wind, but you could use wind to deflect wind with the tarp. Excuse me. Also, afterwards, you can use the tarp for cleaning debris. You can take the tarp and you could, put all the different, debris inside there, and you guys can, use it to haul stuff out of your home and put it out on the lawn or wherever it needs to go. Now, this one to kind of touch on Medical Mondays, have a medical list, of supplies, have those things on hand, and prioritize them to your situation, be it if you, you have a CPAP machine, if you have high blood pressure, if you're a diabetic, medications and, Band-Aids and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm not going to go deep into it. If you want that kind of information, I've done a lot of videos on it on my iFax, on medications that you should store, on my med bags, and all that stuff like that. And you can go to my playlist, that is my Medical Monday playlist, and go through that whole thing. Very valuable content in there, and I'm building on that playlist as well. So just make sure you have your medical in play when it comes to that, because like I've told folks 100 times, during a hurricane, until the winds die down beyond 35 miles per hour, there is no emergency services. They will not come to you. You will be on your own. So if something happens to you in that situation, you get burned by a heater, you get burned by a candle, something falls on you, you twist your foot, you break, whatever the case may be, you are on your own, and you need to know how to use medical devices. You need to know how to resolve these issues, and having a good medical book. And I'm pretty sure I can grab it here, but you guys are probably tired of seeing me showing you books after books after books that you should buy or should have on hand, because you won't have access to your electricity. Cell phone towers went down, so you won't be able to Google this stuff on your phone. Now, if you do have your phone and you have power to your phone, you can download offline material to your phone, and you can use that as well, just to kind of throw that in there. And I know this one's kind of go hand in hand, but in the military they taught us a bunch of different things, and I want to touch on hygiene. Also have some hygiene products, in your home. And then, like I said, I'm trying to build this checklist for you guys. So, wet wipes, hand sanitizers, and one that I find is camp soap. Camp soap seems to last quite some time, or you can just stock, your regular soap. You go to the store, you can buy some hand soaps, you can buy, body washes, you can buy all kinds of stuff like that. But there's also, what I mean by wet wipes is because you might not have, you don't want to waste water. You might not want to use any water that you have stored to clean yourself, so you can use wet wipes, even some deodorant and stuff like that if you want to stay smelling good. But wet wipes can come in super handy for shift scenarios or disaster scenarios to keep yourself hygienically clean. Toothpaste. Just think about what you need on a normal basis: dental floss, mouthwash, all those kinds of things like that. Now, this one I kind of want to dive into is communication. Communication is very, very, very important, because let's say the cell phones are down. How do you communicate? How do you know what's going on in the world? So everybody knows about, the NOAA radios. Some people have the solar ones. Some people have the wind-up ones, regardless of how they are. And if you have a two-way radio system, let's say CBs or walkies or GMRS or whatever, the Baofeng UB5Rs or UB58s, whatever communication devices you have, is practice with them. Learn how to use those devices. The radio's pretty self-explanatory, but make sure they work. Check them every once in a while. And like I said, the solar ones are some really good ones, and there's some really poor ones. So like I said, you have to use some of the stuff that you get so that when it comes time for that emergency, you're familiarized with the product and you know it's going to work when you need it. If you have neighbors that you're friends with and you guys want to, you can use the GMRS radios or the FRS radios, let's say like the Midlands or the Motorola's, just the little handheld radios that, you've seen in my videos that I have on my here that I use it for when I'm out. Things is there's emergencies, or, I'm listening to weather in case there's inclement weather coming my way. But that being said, you have several neighbors that you're in communication with, and like, hey bud, hey Bob, you guys okay over there? You know what I mean? Because, regardless of the storm as it's raging or whatever that you're in, scenario, civil unrest, whatever the cases may be, you can communicate with others in your neighborhood. And they have pretty good, even within a mile or so, which I'm assuming most people don't know their neighbors. You might know your more close neighbors to you, but how many people know their neighbors 10, 15 miles from them? Now, some of you rural folks, maybe you do, and that works in your best interest. But people that are in the suburb or in the city, it's just good to know some of your neighbors that are very like-minded and helpful, and that are also prepared, and you guys communicate with each other. All right, now you've been hearing me talk about flashlights and radios and all this stuff like that. So power, you've heard me talk about a lot of different things when it comes to power gear, like what about power, Grey? And this is where I'm going with this. So power is on the list. So spare batteries, rechargeable batteries. Hopefully these rechargeable batteries that you have a charger that's via USB that you can use ways to recharge. But have lots and lots and lots of spare batteries. Like I said, you can have a small solar charger with that, but you can also buy like I said, the small solar, the bigger solar chargers, the ones that are like more held. A lot of people use these for camping or for the RV or the van life folks. They have these small power banks or solar jennies, solar inverters, whatever they want to classify them as, that can charge your laptops, that can run your charge your batteries, charge your whatever the case may be. You get what I'm saying with that, I hope. So have means of power, your own versions of power. But batteries come in very, very handy. And if you folks know, a lot of folks probably stock some of this stuff, but I was asked to do this, and I'm going to do this because I'm all about giving the subscribers what they want, and I think hopefully this will help some folks. Now, here's what some people forget about. I have this on my list as well: tools. And tools is a wide range of things, but let's say I have here, let's say axes, shovels, work gloves, wrenches, zip ties, duct tape, and the list goes on and on and on. And what I mean, so some people ask me, let's say you have a gas line come into your house and the gas line goes sideways, it gets broken or whatever, you get some damage, stuff like that, and you have the wrench or the tool to turn off that gas line. You have the wrench or the tools, pliers, whatever it may be, to turn off the water, if the valve breaks or whatnot. So think about stuff like that, you know what I mean? This can kind of go beyond that. I'm not going to get into the whole prepping your car thing because I want to do something down the road with that, but just having tools, you need to dig a shovel. Let's say you need to dig a hole for whatever reason. You need to chop some wood. You need to do something to create a fire outside of the home. You want to cook some stuff. Maybe you want to have an impromptu barbecue because everything is, you can't get to nothing. You have meats and that you want to cook. Some people who don't have, let's say, a generator, and they have all this food in their refrigerator or their freezers, and they need to cook it up. So, a lot of people will take all their food, all their meats, and start cooking them all up, because then you can kind of, if you know how to use salts and stuff like that, you can make some of this meat last longer. But that is another video as well. Now, also I have on my list here is self-defense. Now this depends on your personal views when it regards to self-defense, but it can include anything from, knives and axes and, pew-pews, body armor, the list can go on. A lot of people, depending on who you are and the way you view things and where you have money at, but have ways of self-defense. Some people use pepper spray, bear spray, wasp spray, but all that kind of stuff like that. Have ways to self-defense, because people get into desperate times and desperate situations during disaster or whatever shift events, and things can go sideways. So have means to way to protect yourself and as well as your family, and make sure that everybody in your house knows how to use these products as well. Be it if it's something as, let's say, pepper spray, you know what I mean? You should never use pepper spray, if the wind is blowing your direction, because as soon as you spray it, it's going to come back and hit you in the face, and then you're going to be screwed pretty much, because then you're going to be choking and you're not going to be able to see and all that stuff like that. If you're using knives, proper safety tips with knives and how to use knives in a defensive position, or how to use them in that way. And then pew-pews, of course. I always tell everybody to take a firearm safety course, learn how to use a firearm, learn how to do CQB in your home, learn how to use your home as an advantage when if someone's coming into your home. So another one I threw in there just for fun, and it's not really for fun, but it's just I've learned this from some relatively very knowledgeable folks, is having cash on hand. Now, I know times are tough, but whatever cash that you can put away, and if you can put cash away, maybe have small bills, you know what I mean? Some people, will stack $100 bills or whatnot. I know, like, oh, well, I can't afford to stack $100 bills, but if you can stack ones, fives, tens, 20s or whatever, because, maybe you can buy stuff from your neighbor, maybe there's a way to use that money for worst case scenarios. And then if you are stacking large bills to, let's say cover rent, cover whatever bills, because regardless of a disaster, a lot of times people still want their money. A lot of times, not all the time, but if the world's still moving, the bill collectors are still calling. I know it sucks, but it does. Now, in a true shift event, then things would be different. But if you can, stack some cash. Like I said, some of the reasons you might want to stack cash is loss of a job, some sort of loss of income, whatever that may be. Let's say a hurricane hits and you're out of a job for several weeks, and you didn't get paid, you don't have any vacation pay, or whatever the case may be. You have some cash to kind of put back into your income flow so that you can still pick up from where you left off. Another one is mental health. We've talked about this before. There's being mental prepared is super, super, super important. But also for the mental health of your children and the family members and whoever may be hunkered down with you in your home. This can include board games, books, if you have the little, MP3 players for music, if you've downloaded movies to your laptop or tablet or whatnot, things to keep you entertained, a deck of cards, stuff like that to kind of like take away from what's going on outside of the home, outside of, you want to kind of make this environment more, try to keep people entertained, and keep their mind off the bad stuff. So like I said, a lot of, people like to play games, board games, how you have that candle. It's kind of fun, sometimes practice this with your family. Maybe shut your breakers off for a night and kind of break out the board games, break out, a deck of cards, light a candle and hang out with your family and enjoy that moment, because it'll prepare you to kind of be used to that if things really go south. And now this one here is, most folks should know this, and this is on a lot of government sites and all the other stuff like that. But this is, like I said, this is more disaster preparedness than full shift. But documents, have copy of your deeds, your titles, insurance policies, birth certificates, have maps of your local area, pictures of loved ones and your family members, people you may have lost. And you can do this both in physical form and, via USB if they're all electronic. Back up your pictures that you may have on your computer. I learned the hard way when I lost my phone. Well, I didn't lose my phone was obliterated. If you guys saw the video, my phone was obliterated, and I, being paranoid the way I am, I'm like, I'm not uploading nothing to the cloud. I don't want no one to have access to my pictures and my kids or my family or whatnot. So I lost a lot of stuff for the year that I didn't back up that phone. So now I'm backing up everything to a USB drive. And then also, maybe print out some of these pictures that you take with your phone, because you can still take a digital, take your phone to whatever, excuse me, whatever place and print out pictures off your phone or whatever digital device that you have. But I find it to be very important. You don't want to lose that information. Like I said, insurance for your insurance claims, properties, deeds, all that stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's just good to have a backup versions of that. Like I said, either the hard copies or digital copies. And in certain situations, you might also want to write down local emergency information, important contact numbers, know the locations of your nearest hospitals or fire departments and things like that, places that you can go in worst case scenarios. Let's say in a hurricane environment or a tornado, things go south and you know that these people are busy or whatnot. You can maybe go to a shelter, know where your nearest shelters are or something like that. So just gotta have that information written down somewhere, stored on, offline on your phone, piece of paper in your wallet or whatnot, you know what I mean, just to stay in contact with folks. And that basically is going to, give you the basics for surviving for at least several weeks in your home. And I'm going to touch on the situations with having a bag and why that is important, but just I want to say that I'm concluding that section of this video in regards to what I find important that you should do for at least a 2-week survival in your home. That's kind of like a checklist. And if you guys want, let me down in the comments. I can email you this checklist if it may help you. You guys maybe want to save it or print it out, whatever the case may be. So hopefully that checklist will help you in regards to being in your home. I think I pretty much touched anything. Now, like I said, this is based on 2 weeks. Okay, so think about this. This is 2 weeks that I'm kind of going over. That list is based for 2 weeks. Now, if you want to do 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months, a year, then of course you want to expand that list. You can use that list as a point to go off of and then expand on that list. Hopefully that you understand that. And if not, like I said, drop a comment, send me an email, whatever the case may be. I will elaborate on that. Now, to touch on the the get home bags, the bug out bags, I kind of made a list of situations why we have these bags, and I'm not going to go into bug out bags. I'm not going to go everything that's in my bug out bag or my get home bag. I've done videos on that. You guys can find that. I think my get home bag I just did several weeks ago, and I'll probably do a bug out bag. It's just every person has done it, and I just think that's super redundant. Maybe you guys do want to see what's in my bug out bag, but I will show that to you guys eventually. Maybe I'll just throw it in there as a bonus video one of these times and put something together. Who knows? So anyways, situations that these bags come important. So let's say you're surviving at home and something bad happens and you need to, let's say, bug out or get out of your home, whatever the case may be. And now when I say bug out, some people think bug out means you're bugging out for the rest of your life into the woods. Sometimes you may, I don't mean that. Bugging out can mean that you have to go to a shelter, you have to go to a friend's house. It just means that you have to leave your home quickly in an emergency. Okay. So I'm going to use some examples here. So authorities ordering evacuation and you want to beat the chaos, traffic jams by leaving quickly while others scramble to pack. And I'm reading from my notes exactly what I wrote down. But think about that. There's a situation, forest fires. You guys in California should know this. Hurricanes down here in Florida. A lot of folks wait to the last minute and then they get in these traffic jams. I mean, I've seen video after video after video of just lines of traffic trying to leave the area where the hurricane is expected to hit. And guess what? What happens is they end up being stuck in their vehicle while the storm is hitting. And then they're in that situation. So you'd rather be in your home and be prepared in your home than be out in traffic. But worst case scenario, and you do have to leave and you do get stuck in that environment, you have a bag with stuff in there for you to at least survive for at least 72 hours. You know what I mean? Minimum 72 hours of stuff. Food, water, all that stuff like that. And like I said, Ghost said something really good, is think about how much water weighs. But again, 72 hours. A lot of us folks like to call them 72-hour bags, get home bags, bug out bags. They all have their purposes and reasons. We can even get into EDC, stuff that people carry on them on a daily basis, which is everyday carry. You need to get somewhere fast. Maybe something happens to a family member and you don't have time to pack an overnight bag. You need to get there ASAP. You have, let's say, 15-30 minutes and you need to run. And you have a bag already ready to go to grab, be it your whatever bag it may be that you're grabbing. You wake up in the middle of the night to a house fire. This has happened to folks in our community. So people know anything can happen at any time. Let's say you wake up, the house is on fire. Everybody grabs their go bags, their get home bags, or whatever bag that you have prepared for you. You grab these bags. Or, like I said, a wildfire is approaching your home. You only have a few minutes to go. You need these bags packed and ready and know what's in them and know how to use the stuff that's in them. When it comes to the medical side of things, having an IFAK, an individual first aid kit, or a med bag, or whatever the case may be, again, knowing how to use the equipment that's inside there. Someone gets injured outside your home, your neighbor, or whatever it may be, having those medical supplies is extremely necessary, and having them in a bag ready to go is very important. And then you just grab that bag, you run towards the patient or the person that's injured, and you can use your knowledge and all that information to help that person possibly save a life. Again, let's touch on this. Hurricanes or tornadoes that you thought were going to miss you. A lot of people they get complacent. Oh, the hurricane's it's 5 days out and it's going to hit let's say down here in Florida, it's going to hit Bermuda or the Virgin Islands or wherever. It's going to hit Puerto Rico, but it's not going to hit us. And all of a sudden, how the weather forecasters are, they're hyping it up. They're saying, oh, it's doing this, and then all of a sudden, 2 hours before the hurricane's meant to go here, it deviates really hard and it hits you directly. So it changed course, and all of a sudden, boom, you're stuck in a shelter for a week, 2 weeks, whatever the case may be. And if anybody's ever been into a FEMA shelter or a pop-up shelter, they're not the best. They have some supplies there, but it's better to have your own. Another reason to have this bag ready. We can talk about, let's say, California, earthquakes. They force you to go outside, and you might not be able to return to your building or whatever. Even if it looks fine, they may tell you that you cannot go back in that building because they have to look for structural damage or whatnot. So then you, again, are not screwed, but you get what I'm saying, that you're not allowed to go in that building. So having the bag that when you leave your home or building or apartment or whatever that you're living in, and you have that leave the home, you have enough supplies and the material that I went over in that checklist in your bag. Like I said, you can apply those things. Like I said, let's say your documents, your identifications, money, some food, some water, stuff like that. Having that in your bag is very, very, very important. Again, with the, let's say, I guess with earthquakes, they could be, gas line disruptions, fires, there can be so much happening with some of these natural disasters. Again, we can touch on Texas. Look what happened there. Pipes froze, then pipes burst. Electrical grid was down. People were, it was just a bad situation. Let's say you live in Portland, Oregon. Let's say you live in, last night, from what I understand, in Minnesota, there was civil unrest. People were looting and breaking and smashing and stealing stuff. Civil unrest, unless you're in that neighborhood where that thing's going down and you want to, distance yourself from that. Have your bag, get ready to go. Get in there and get out of there, because you never know. These people can turn on you. They can light your house on fire. They can do so much. So having that bag ready to go during something that's like civil unrest, and have an escape plan from your home. Let me see here. Let's say worst case scenario, now we're going to kind of dive into more of the shift event, you know what I mean? Let's say an enemy, an outside foreign force attacks the U.S. or attacks a city near you or attacks in your area, whatever the case may be, or your own government is coming after you due to political or whatever that may be. I'm not going to dive into that, but you guys get what I'm saying. Having that bag to leave is, like I said, again, this is why we have the bug out bags. And the reason I'm going over this is because, these are some of the great reasons to have these bags ready to go. Also, worst case scenario, EMPs, bioweapons, nuclear fallout. There's all kinds of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons why you need a bag in an emergency situation, because if you need to go from where you're at to another location, you grab this bag and you know that in this bag you have enough stuff to survive outside of your home for several days, several weeks, whatever the case may be. And like I said, or someone breaks into your home, you want to remove yourself from that situation. Maybe you're not the type of person to take a life, and you kind of want to dip out the back. You know what I mean? And you leave your materialistic stuff, but in your bag you can survive and get help. I'm just trying to think of, I think, most people are going to defend their home. Truly, I understand that, because that's what I would do. But there's some folks that are not. What does it say? They don't ever want to be an aggressor, you know what I mean? But a lot of folks are, but some aren't. And they just want to leave that situation quickly. It could even be something, let's say, you're in a situation where you have domestic violence and you have a bag put somewhere hidden, and something goes really south, and you know that they're drinking and something bad's going to happen, and you want to take that bag and go to a friend's house. Just to kind of break down that there's so many reasons why it's important to have a get home bag, bug out bag, whatever bag you want to call it, 72-hour bag, emergency bag, whatever you want to label it as. These are some reasons why preppers, people like us and people like you, that if you're getting into prepping, should have. So hopefully this video did its job and answered the questions that you guys have emailed me about, folks that have been watching my content that are new to prepping, and all that stuff like that. I know the video is a little long, but I kind of wanted to be somewhat thorough. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, please drop them down in the comments below. If you don't want to do that, you can email me. If you want to be, anonymous, you can just email me, and I can respond to you that way. I try to get to my emails at least several times a week. Sometimes I have days where I'm really busy, or weeks that I'm really busy and I can't get to them as fast. So I will respond to you. I haven't forgotten about you. I know there's a couple of emails that I need to answer still. Anyways, so if you found value in this content, please give it a thumbs up. If you did not, I know there's always going to be someone who gives it a thumbs down. Hey, I'm doing my best that I can, and hopefully I'm putting out valuable content, information that helps at least someone, at least one person out there. I feel that if I put out something out there that I can help one person, the video is well worth it in my time, because it makes me feel good to helping folks out there. All right, so thank you for your time. Like I said, hopefully this helps everybody out there, helps at least a few people out there. I think that's about it. Anyways, this is GreyMan. I'm out. God bless. I'll see you guys on the rebound.